Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. This is Decoding with Cody, and today is November 13th, 2025. And today we have another quite interesting geek code that goes a lot along the lines of what we've been talking about on this channel. And today, to help out with the decode, we have Derek from Dramatrinator85 on YouTube. Hello, Derek.
What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well, Cody. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, glad to have another collab with you, and this should be a good one for you guys. We got an interesting story that happened a few days ago that actually ties into my Berlin game. So I know you guys have heard a lot about this Berlin game lately, but we're gonna make another connection with that, and Derek's going to make some great number connections as he normally does. But before we get into the deeper numbers, I'm just going to kind of present the symbolism of why these things even work the way they do. Because at first it seems crazy, like how does this connect to what we're talking about here? But you guys will see as we go through that there's definitely something more going on here. And yeah, we'll give it another minute for some people to get in here. I'll say some hellos and then we'll get right into it. Hello to Susan. Hello to Sojourn. Thank you. I'm assuming you guys can hear us. I didn't need to do a sound check, but well, last stream you guys, I went 2 minutes of talking and didn't realize I was muted. So hopefully you guys can hear both me and Derek. Give us that thumbs up if you can hear us. Derek, give him a shout out there.
Yeah, we love thumbs in the chat, especially when they're pointing in the upward direction.
Yes.
Those are our favorite thumbs.
Precisely. And it seems as those thumbs up are coming in now that they confirm that they can hear us. So that's good. But hello to everyone, and thank you guys for the thumbs up. Hello, Coffee Girl. Thank you for being here as usual. Maggie McCombs, Bone Jones, the usual in the chat, and I appreciate you all. You guys are always the first ones in here usually. It's always the same culprits, but I appreciate you. So hello to Ricky. And yeah, so we won't waste too much time here. Again, don't forget to smash those like buttons. Don't forget to go subscribe to Derek's channel as well. I got his in the description of the video. I got his channel pinned. You can just click that and head on over to his channel. And with that being said, I guess we'll get ready to go into it. So I got to thank Derek for bringing this up to me, this story that happened a few days ago over the weekend. This story, I mean, I didn't even see it. And Derek had shared something with me this morning. Actually, Derek, I think I had sent you something about 2027s, and then you had mentioned, oh, well, I just had some 2027s.
Yeah, it was clear that the same riddle was in both of the stories that we were talking about, kind of butted heads a little bit and realized, oh, these things are a lot more connected to each other than they are, or than we thought they were.
Yeah, and then, as you guys know, I've been talking about the Berlin game, which most of you guys already know about what that is, but that was the game between the Colts and the Falcons, the first ever game in Berlin, Germany on November 9th. And that was the day that the NFL commissioner died, the former NFL commissioner who actually took office just 4 days before the actual Berlin Wall fell in 1989. Well, actually, that's actually a good segue because the movie, not the Temple, we're going to talk about the Temple of Doom as well. But the other movie is, which actually both movies fit into this perfectly. But the other one is The Last Crusade. And this is where we get the Templar symbolism. Well, we get it both ways, the temple and the crusade. But this movie came out in 1989. So remember, the Berlin Wall fell that year, and that was the year Taylor Swift was born. I talked about that in my last decode. And that was actually the year the Super Bowl was in Miami, and you're going to see why that's important as well. So this is we're just an introduction of the Berlin game and how it connects. And don't forget, as Rambo and me pointed out last decode, in 3 out of the 4 movies, I think, or 3 out of the 5 movies, the antagonist of Indiana Jones is the Nazis. But as we most of us know, the Nazis kind of came from the Templars and the Jesuits, so they're really all the same head, and the Skull and Bones is also a part of that. So we're going to talk about all those different societies as we go through this. But yeah, well, let's get into the slides. So here's the story that Derek brought to me earlier today, and this is the story that's going to be the overarching theme of the Decode. It was an 18-year-old girl was found dead upon a Carnival cruise ship. It was called the Carnival Horizon. Is that what it was?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So a Carnival Horizon cruise ship. She's 18, and her name is Anna Marie Kepner. So this is, just so you guys know, this is the main theme. It's a cruise ship, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this is going to be the main theme. She was born on June 13th, 2007. It says she died on November 7th, but the news didn't actually break. If you look, most of the articles didn't come out until November 9th or November 10th. The first thing I pointed out in my slides, which I also know Derek has in his, is this is like the most clear gematria thing I found, is that her name equals 54, and she died on the day leaving 54 days in the year on November 7th. So that was just like to start it out. But the big thing is the symbolism, and that's why I want to do this before we really get into the numbers, because it's pretty clear that if you look into the origins of her last name, how this connects to the Crusades and the Templars. Well, first of all, her name is German. So there is your clear connection to the Berlin game in Germany. Kepner, though, is not just German. It's an occupational name meaning maker of cloaks. Well, when you think of Templars, you certainly think of cloaks. They wear cloaks with their cross on them. And most of the time, that's a big iconic part of their attire is the cloak, right?
And Cody, you mentioned the 54. She also died 54 days after the Pope's birthday. And of course, the Pope is who the allegiance was sworn to by the Knights Templar.
That's good additions. Those are kind of additions that are good to add in as I'm talking. That's perfect, because, as Derek said, the Templars, that's what they're under. They're under the Pope. So that's perfect, really. And the 54 was actually big the week before that, because the game of the World Series ended 5-4, and I made a big deal out of the 54s on that day too. So and we know the Jesuit order equals 54, sun equals 54. They're the soldiers, like soul, like sun, and they're the Solomons, like sun and moon. And as Derek's going to get into with the numbers, it has a lot to do with eclipses, right? Sun and moon, Solomon. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But the biggest thing to know with this girl dying is, what is the chance her name equals Kepner, which is maker of cloaks? So on top of that, you might say, okay, Cody, that's interesting, but that doesn't prove that this is all about the Knights Templar. Well, this might actually, in my mind, bring it together, because she died on a cruise ship, okay? And if you look up the etymology of the word cruise, you're going to see that it's essentially means the same thing as crusade. The biggest difference is that cruise, the reason they call it a cruise is because you're crossing the sea, right? Like a cross. Well, crusade also has the same origin, but it means a cross, somewhere where a cross is. So it all goes back to the cross. And that's why the Knights Templar have the cross, right? So I never even thought of this before, but the word crusade and cruise are actually technically the same origin. And how is it? So her last name means, Kepner, which is cloaks, right? Like the Templars. And she was on a cruise, right? Which is crusade, which is crux, which is cross. And that's what, when you think of the Knights Templar, you think of the Templar cross. And now this is where it gets a bit, thank you. Someone's saying Tom Cruise. Yeah, that's probably something to look into, actually. I didn't even think of that. Tom Cruise. He's probably connected to this too. But anyways, what we're gonna connect right now is, how does this actually tie to the Berlin game that was taking place the same day that the news broke that she died? And again, I told you her name is German. That game was in Germany. The Nazis, in my opinion, basically come from the Templars. And the Jesuits, that same type of theme. So how does the city of Indianapolis, who won that game the night that her death was announced, how does that connect to this? Well, I mentioned this in the ITI podcast, but Indianapolis, their slogan is Crossroads of America. So here you have this same theme with the cross, and their flag is a cross with it's crossroads, but it actually depicts their a memorial circle, which is a big circle in the center of of Indianapolis, which has the victory statue, and Berlin has a victory statue, which is based off of the goddess Nike. But anyway, it's all about the crossroads or the cross. And so, as me and Derek are looking into this, we were like, okay, I think as we went through, we got more certain that this was connected. At first, we were like, I think we were both a bit like saying, okay,
Hesitant,
is this
yeah.
really connected? Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just saying we were a little bit hesitant at first. It's tempting to draw connections where there's not something truly, but once you sense that you're on the right path, things start to come together like this.
Yeah. And then the next thing I looked into is like, okay, well, the seal of the Templar, right? Well, here's your dome, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the temple, the Dome of the Rock. But here's your temple, right? And this connects to Indiana Jones. Of course, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the most common seal for the Templars is two men riding a horse. And in fact, when you look up a lot of crusade pictures, there's a lot of horses. Okay, you're going to see a lot of horses, and of course, that's a direct connection to the Colts. And so, a big thing that happened this year with the Colts is their owner died, and his three daughters took over for him. And their owner's name was Jim Irsay, and his birthday was June 13th, right? Well, this is what sealed it for me that this was connected. Look at the birthday of the girl who died on the cruise ship. Her name is Anna Kepner, which again means cloak maker. And she was born June 13th, 2007. Thanks to Derek for showing that, because once he showed me that, I immediately put all together. June 13th, 2007. I knew exactly what this was about because I knew that this was Jim Irsay's birthday. So she shared a birthday with the owner of the Colts, right? And yes, KJ Malone in the chat is saying that Jim Irsay died on Josh Allen's birthday. And this is one of the main reasons I'm not all in on the Colts, because I think that this all could be a riddle for Josh Allen.
Yeah, let's not get out ahead of ourselves with the predictions. I mean, we see riddles with many teams throughout the year. Just because we have a news story connected to the Colts, that doesn't always mean the Colts are going to the Super Bowl. So,
right.
And the odds aren't good for them anymore anyway, now that they're winning.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, if they do go to the Super Bowl, we can look back at these streams and say, yeah, this was the I've certainly put out enough code on this team. But we know the Colts in general are important because they have Indianapolis equals 201. It's a huge central city. A lot of things go on there, but the biggest thing was that, again, what are the odds that she has the same birthday as Jim Irsay, the former Colts owner? And not only that, guys, this is what really did it, was not only did she share the same birthday with him, she was born in the year that his team won the Super Bowl. She was born in 2007, right? So she was born on his birthday in the same year that the Colts won. And where did they win the Super Bowl at? Well, here it is. Super Bowl XLI was in 2007 and was won by the Indianapolis Colts, who defeated the Chicago Bears. And where was the game? The game was in Miami. And that is where it kind of all connects, Miami, because this is where did the ship take off from when this girl started her cruise? Well, it was Miami. So how perfect it is that she was born the year the Colts won the Super Bowl, and she took off from the city they won the Super Bowl in that year, and she's born on the owner's birthday. And she was 18 years old when she died. And who was the star player for the Colts in 2007? Well, it was number 18. So, I mean, that's I'm glad I didn't forget to put that in there, the 18, because I think that's also a big part of it. Why was she 18 years old when Peyton Manning wore the number 18? So, and then this is kind of like really to bring it all together, because so we know all that now, but why is it so important that she took off from Miami? Well, Miami, not only did they win the Super Bowl in Miami in 2007, look at all the Colts Super Bowls they've been to. They've been to 4, right? Super Bowl in 69 was against the Jets, who they just traded with, by the way. Their first Super Bowl was in Miami. They lost. Their second Super Bowl was in Miami. They won. The third Super Bowl was in Miami. They won. And their fourth Super Bowl was in Miami, and they lost. So think about that. This girl, all connected to the Colts owner, she died. Her news announced of her death on the day the Colts starring in Berlin, and she leaves for Miami. And the Colts are so connected to Miami, and not just because all their Super Bowls were in Miami. The season this year, their season, the Colts season this year, started out with, who did they play? Miami. And in the year that their current quarterback, Daniel Jones, was born, who's going to be, I'm going to talk about him in a minute. His nickname is Indiana Jones. He was born in 1997. And what was the first game of the season in 1997? It was in Colts and Dolphins again. And this was on the day that Princess Diana died in Diana. And I mentioned this in the Eye to Eye podcast. I might as well mention it again. In Diana, the goddess of crossroads, Indiana is the crossroad. Indianapolis calls themselves the crossroads of America. But not only did their current quarterback, not only was he born in 1997, Jim Irsay took over in 1997. So the year he died, he gets a quarterback who was born the year he took over. I mean, how perfect. It's like full cycle, coming full circle. And that's why you have the sun symbolism here. Notice the Dolphins have the sun, right? And it's the sun and the water. It has to do with the sun, I'm sure, because I've already shown how Daniel Jones he equals 864, which is the sun's measurements.
Yeah, Dolphins equals 360 in gematria. Remember, 666, the sum of the magic square, the 36 triangular. So
right, yeah,
kind of goes along with the circle and sun theme.
Right, exactly. And so, and then again, that goes back to what we're going to talk about in a bit with the soul, Solomon, the soul and the moon, the eclipses. That's always the big symbolism. And so based off that, guys, again, she died the same day as the Berlin game on 11/9. Her name is German. Her last name's German. But look at the gematria. So this is like the first gematria I have here. But Colts, if you just look at Colts, it equals Kepner, her last name, in 2 ciphers. And the 30 is important, but I won't hype too much on that. But notice that crew, she died on a cruise ship, equals 30. And the ship was called Horizon, which also equals, and that's another sun symbolism, of course, 30, right? But notice she has this Indianapolis equals 69, Colts 69, Kepner 69. So as Derek pointed out, and thanks to Derek for seeing this, I mean, they all the same numbers, really. And this is what really brought it together with me, because once I started really looking to the measurements and the numbers, I was like, wow, this is perfect. So look at the day that Jim Irsay died, to the day that his team won the Berlin game, and the day that this girl died. Remember, she has the same birthday as him. 173 days after he died. And not only was it 173 days after he died at 65. And this is the most basic gematria ciphers in English. Knights Templar is 173 and 65. And it just so happens, and a matter of fact, let me show you this. Not only is it a 2-cipher match with Olympia Stadion, it's actually a 4-cipher match with Olympia Stadion. Look at that. Not only the 2 important numbers like the 173 and 65, what are the odds, guys, that Knights Templar is a perfect match to the stadium they played in Berlin? And not to mention, it has the 173, which is the amount of days after he died at 65. Especially when you see a 4 out of 4 cipher match, you know you're onto something. So, yeah, that's pretty wild, and pretty much proves that this Nazi stuff that we've been talking about carries over to the Templars as well, and Skull and Bones, as we'll learn a little bit. Another interesting thing about this is the date numerology of the game was 65. 11 plus 9 plus 20 plus 25, 65. He died at 65. And this is also important too, because basic simple gematria, horse equals 85 or 65. H is the 8th letter, O is the 15th, R is the 18th, S is the 19th, E is the 5th. That adds up to 65. She died at, or she didn't die, but she went to Temple Christian School. Of course she did, guys. She went to Temple Christian School. Well, the Knights Templar Temple, right? Temple of Solomon. That's their full name, is the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. So Temple. Well, the Indiana Jones movie that came out in 1984, which we're going to talk more about in a bit, but Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out on May 23rd, which is not far off from the death date of Jim Irsay, just 2 days after. But yeah, I mean, what are the chances? He went to Temple, you got the Temple of Doom, you got the Temple of Solomon, all that different connections. And then again, 1984, right? That was the year that Temple of Doom came out. Well, what happened in 1984? Well, J.D. Vance was born, and I know Derek's going to talk about him in a little bit, because there is a big J.D. Vance connection here. But another thing that happened that year is the Colts moved to Indianapolis. So the Temple of Doom came out the same year that the father of Jim Irsay moved the Colts in the middle of the night to Indianapolis. And you can see that Daniel Jones, I just put all this here so you guys know who he is, but Daniel Jones, born 1997, which again is when Jim Irsay took over as general manager, his nickname is Indiana Jones. And this picture right here comes from Fox. This isn't just from some random artist, like just on Twitter somewhere. This actually was posted, this picture, by Fox Sports. So they are giving this name, Indiana Jones and the Colts Crusade. So again, Fox Sports, a big news channel, a big sports channel. They made this picture. Notice they put the pillars. Okay, that's directly connecting to Solomon's Temple. But they wrote the Colts Crusade. That's the theme of it, right? The Colts Crusade. Well, look what it equals. The Colts Crusade equals Knights Templar, equals the stadium in which Indiana Jones and his Colts, Olympia Stadion, is where they won the Berlin game 173 days after Irsay died. And this was posted, I believe, before the Berlin game. So they coded the 173 into this for sure. But another thing I found interesting is that Indiana Jones and the Colts Crusade, if you just do that in reverse, it equals 503. And in standard, just the word crusade equals 503. So that's interesting.
So does solar eclipse, intriguingly enough, 503.
In which one?
Standard.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hold on. I might as well show that, because that's good. Whoops. Solar eclipse?
Yes.
Whoops. Well, yeah, you guys see what I mean. Solar eclipse does equal 503 in the same cipher as crusade. Wow. So that wow. I mean, that really makes a lot of sense, because Derek, you remember when I showed you the Indiana Jones movie, The Dial of Destiny?
Right.
The most recent one.
Mm-hmm. 2023.
Well, the whole movie is about a powerful artifact. Again, that's the Archimedes dial, and it's made to predict the eclipses. Look, this is the Antikythera mechanism, and right here it says it was predicted. It's used to predict to have the Olympic Games, and eclipses. Right here it says it could be used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses. And so this is just perfect in my opinion. I mean, it's obvious that this is all about the eclipse code, as Derek normally talks about on his channel, and he's going to get to in a minute. But one last thing before we get to that is one more thing with the Miami. So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out in 1984, which was the year the Colts went to Indianapolis. But in 1989, the next movie came out, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Well, that's where Fox News got its inspiration from, of course. The Colts Crusade is just one off from the Last Crusade. And look at when that came out, May 24th, 1989. Well, what happened in 1989? The Super Bowl was in Miami. So you see how the Super Bowl being in Miami, and that's something that's going against the Colts this year as well. I mean, I am definitely, the Colts are one of my top 3 or 4 teams to make it to the Super Bowl for sure out of the AFC. But one thing that's going against them is that the Super Bowl is not in Miami. So if history repeats, they will not go, right? But maybe they beat Miami to start the season in order to break that curse of only going to Super Bowls in Miami. But what's interesting about that Super Bowl in 1989 is that who played in that Super Bowl? It was Cincinnati and San Francisco. Well, where's the Super Bowl this year? In San Francisco. Cincinnati is directly connected to Indianapolis. I told you guys in my Bob Trumpy stream that in order to get from Cincinnati to Indianapolis, it's not very far. It's like an hour or something. But Cincinnati to Indianapolis, you have to take 74 to 465, and 465 goes around Indianapolis. And Bob Trumpy and Donald Trump were born 465 days apart. So Cincinnati, they're probably not going to the Super Bowl this year. San Francisco could. But Cincinnati, I think, is kind of linked in this because they're so close to the Colts. I mean, literally, like I said, you could get there within an hour and a half at the most driving between those two cities. So, yeah, that's the basis of it. But the big point is, and as Derek's going to get into, you know, how all these things connect. And I think I laid that out pretty good for you guys to understand that these are not coincidences, even though they may seem like it. But anyway, Derek, is there anything you want to add before I hand it over? Or is there anything you want to add to any of my slides before I hand it over to you? Or
No, I don't think so. I mean, what I'm about to share complements all of that pretty nicely.
Okay. Here we go. We'll set you up now. Let's see.
Yeah, so this student from Temple Christian School, her last name Kepner, which again means maker of cloaks, also is a super match in the base 4 ciphers with the word knight. And again, these are the simplest, most basic forms of gematria in the alphabetic order. And here we see Kepner and knight, a perfect match all across these 4 ciphers. When you write out the word temple, you get the values of 91 and 71. And this was the United States age on the date she died, 9171. A couple interesting things about Independence Day we'll touch on. One of those, for instance, is that if you look at the date that Jim Irsay was born, as well as this character, Anna Kepner, their birthday is 11 months and 9 days after Independence Day. And when she died on November 7th, I think if you go the other direction, 11 months and 9 days, $10.16. Oh, Jim Irsay died that many days after his birthday. My mistake. 5/21. So 11 months and 9 days after his own birthday. And again, we're talking about the Berlin game on November 9th that this all ties to. So in the news report that I saw, where they were discussing this story about the mysterious death on the cruise ship, the reporters were very perplexed about how they were able to identify a specific time of death. And usually when they find a body and they're not sure, they'll give an estimate. But here they gave a precise time for some reason. And this was 11:17 a.m. And of course, that's very similar to the date, 11/7. But I talk about this number, 11:17, with some regularity because 11:17 is the 187th prime number. And on top of that, 11 times 17 is 187. We recognize this as the homicide code. Brotherhood of Death, the other name for Skull and Bones, shares this 187 gematria with total eclipse. And remember, Society of Jesus also shares this 187. Their emblem is similar to the sun. But another interesting fact about 1117 is that the date 1117 in leap years is the 322nd day on the calendar. And this points to the next big numbers of this riddle, 322 and the Skull and Bones code, which essentially is the eclipse code. Now, in non-leap years, the 322nd day of the year is November 18th. This brings us over to the Knights Templar, who were created in the year 1118. Again, through the Gregorian calendar, this ties directly to the number 322. And then when the Templars were dissolved in 1312, it was on the date 322, or March 22nd. Now in ordinal, skull and crossbones is 223. And a while ago, Cody, you shared with me, Skull and Bones Knights Templar equals 322 in the alphabetic order. And this brings us to the capital letters ciphers of gematria, which, we're still using the alphabetic order, but either adding or mixing the capital letters into the equation. And when you do this, the name Anna Kepner and the name Anna Marie Kepner both equal 223. Her school, Temple Christian School, equals 322. And she died on a Carnival cruise, which equals 223. So one other thing I wanted to point out as well is how this is all a riddle to Daniel in the lion's den, a story from Daniel chapter 6 in the Old Testament of the Bible. And the riddle here is pretty clear to see. Now, on November 9th, the same day that the NFL played their first game in Berlin, Donald Trump became the first president to attend a regular season NFL game in nearly half a century. Here he is on Fox. He joined the broadcast team a little bit to remind us that maybe not all regular announcers are so bad. And so this was a big occasion, and I thought it was interesting because Donald Trump and the wall have been a huge theme throughout his presidency, talking a lot about the border wall and so on. And the fact that this happened on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall when the NFL was in Berlin is perfect. So at this game, Donald Trump was watching the Washington Commanders play against the Detroit Lions. Okay? So at first we were talking about the Indianapolis quarterback, Daniel Jones, right? He's got this first name, Daniel. Well, the coach of the Lions, who were playing the Commanders in Washington in front of the president, his name is Daniel, Dan Campbell. And the quarterback for the Commanders, who just got hurt the week before, is also named Daniel, Jaden Daniels. And in regards to Miami, they're connected to this as well because the coach of the Miami Dolphins is named Mike McDaniel. And consider how the name Daniel has matching numbers pretty much across the board with Miami, right? 45, 99, 27, even 36. So there seems to be this Daniel and the Lion's Den, with all of this concerning the Detroit Lions, right? Well, what about this lion, Lionel Messi, whose nickname is Leo, like the astrological sign for the constellation shaped like a lion? And where does Lionel Messi play? Oh, that's right. He now plays for Miami. Well, it just so happens that the day after Anna Kepner died and her body was returned to Miami, Lionel Messi led Inter Miami to their first ever playoff series victory in Major League Soccer, which was a big deal for the team, big deal for the city. This franchise has existed for well over a decade now, and it took them over 10 years to get this first playoff series win, and they did so over Nashville. So all of this starts to come together very well, and you realize when you write out lion in Latin gematria, which I consider to be the most significant cipher, especially with the large methods. It's really the only cipher I teach that's not based in ordinal, but it is based on the 23-letter classic Latin alphabetic order. Lion equals 119, like the date of the NFL's visit, November 9th. You'll also notice that Anna Kepner has matching gematria with Miami, just like she does with Indianapolis, as you showed earlier. Now, there's a few connections with Leo Messi and Anna Kepner. For instance, he has birth numerology of 136, which is a lot like her 13/6 birthday. And she died on a Carnival cruise, Carnival 136. Of course, Lionel Messi is from Argentina, which is home to the first ever Jesuit Pope. And the Jesuits equals 136. Jesuit order 1336. A little bit more about the Jesuits later. But Anna's death was 885 days after Leo Messi, quote, took his talents to South Beach. And this is another huge number to the Skull and Bones code. Skull and Crossbones 885.
Wait, isn't this the, sorry, Derek, but isn't this the amount of days that Trump and Charles are born apart?
Well, that could be.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm pretty sure that is. If I remember
correctly. I have looked at that before, so you're right.
I think another riddle for these two. Yeah, wow. Super interesting there.
Yeah, this is a huge number, man. I mean, I put it in many, many of my blog posts. This 885. Like Tom Brady, he went to the Skull and Bones team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if I'm not mistaken, look how old he was on 9/11, right? 8,805 days.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, this is just one example of like dozens I have on my blog of this number popping up.
Well, maybe that's, I mean, I wondered that for actually, I had always measured between Trump and Charles, like, and I always wonder why it wasn't 888, because that would be like, Trump and time traveler and all that. But the 885 seems to be super important here. So.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a doubt. I mean, with the regularity that this number comes up, I mean, it was just in my blog earlier this week because we had the Prime Minister of Hungary visit the White House. And this was a Skull and Bones ritual to the max. I don't know how the wrong post came up here, but... when was this? This was November... Wow, I've been posting a lot lately. So yeah, this guy from Hungary comes to the White House. And he was born exactly 885 weeks after Donald Trump.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that. And then I remember that Charles was born that. And that's why I started thinking about that number, but I never got a chance to say anything to you about it. But yeah, that's crazy. That's Really
We'll
interesting.
definitely keep an eye out for it because you will see it over and over again. So I thought to myself, okay, well, Inter Miami, this is obviously connected to what's going on with the soccer team winning its first playoff series. Well, one of the co-owners of Inter Miami is one of the greatest footballers of all time, just like Leo Messi, David Beckham. And when you look at David Beckham, look at how old he was, right? 50 years and 27 weeks exactly for the death of this young student. And these are essentially the same digits in his birthday. 527, right? He was born on 5/2 of 75. And this is what I want to point out because skull and bones equals 527 with the ampersand. But if you instead write out skull and bones, it's 572. And the game in Berlin, Germany was the Indianapolis Colts' 572nd win in franchise history. And when I saw this kind of blew my mind because earlier this week, or last week now, I guess, the Dallas Cowboys had a player on their active roster who died, which is incredibly rare in major sports in America. For, we see former athletes die on the regular, but for an active player on the roster to die. And in that post, I pointed out how the Dallas Cowboys, they're also sitting on 572 wins all time for their little skull and bones ritual over there.
You see this one, Derek?
What's that?
This the branch is so good with the strong stuff. Look at this. The Detroit Lions equals 1158. Strong's 1158 is Daniel.
Oh, wow. How about that?
I mean, he's great with. He's always been good with that. I don't know what cipher it's in. What cipher is it in? Sumerian.
Yes, sir. That's cool.
He's the one that brought up. Speaking of Marshawn Nealon, during my stream about him, I showed him your connection about the 24 days after the Cowboys were founded, and I was making the connection with Jesus because he has the matching gematria with Jesus Christ, and he came in the stream and said Strong's 24 is Jesus.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So this guy, big shout out to you, the branch, because you have. That's not even the first time you've done this. It almost seems like every stream you do this. So, yeah, you're a master with the Strongs, and from what I understand, Derek has maybe something up the pipe with the Strongs here very soon, right, Derek?
Yeah. On the I don't want to get too sidetracked with it now, but we do have a newer app getting launched soon, where the Strong's Concordance is directly embedded into the number properties. So we'll be making a lot more connections with that too, because as we've seen, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, this is the code. This is another one to look for, and I know you have an eye for it now as well. But this 572-527, and it's something I noted a lot as well because Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the Colts, right? He was born on 5/27, May 27th.
The Golden Gate Bridge too.
Right. So you look at the Golden Gate Bridge, and we find that it was completed on that same date. The opening ceremony for the Golden Gate Bridge was on May 27th. And this connection runs pretty deep because Daniel Jones was born exactly 720 months after the Golden Gate Bridge opened. And this is a number I talk about in relation to gold on occasion, as golden ratio equals 720 in Sumerian. So when you look at Daniel Jones's age, well, I have this backwards, but he was born 4,752 days after Temple of Doom came out. Skull and Bones also 752. He'll be 257 days after his birthday for the Super Bowl. And then this news of the cruise ship death on Sunday, the same day as the Berlin Games, this was 10,527 days after Bob Irsay died. Bob is, of course, Jim's father and the man who passed the team on down to him. And when the student died, J.D. Vance, he had the 572 in his age. So I guess we'll expand more on this shortly. I'll admit I have a little bit too much work to look through here. But don't worry, we'll make sense of this. Here's a good one. We often talk about this Skull and Bones anniversary. The 322nd anniversary, which happened in 2023. And this is an awesome alignment for Skull and Bones, of course, and the school that it's headquartered at. Well, on November 7th, when Anna Kepner passed away, this was 760 days after Yale's Skull and Bones anniversary. Not only that, but it was also 7 months and 6 days before her next birthday. And Skull and Bones and Secret Society both equal 76. And we might as well bring in J.D. Vance to the fold. Remember, just a couple weeks ago, we lost Dick Cheney. Well, I don't know who lost him or who's missing him necessarily, but Dick Cheney died. And I talked about how this was all connected to the current vice president, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was born in 1984, which is the year that Temple of Doom came out. Now, J.D. Vance was a graduate of Yale University, where he got his law degree. And it seems doubtless that he has some sort of secret society connection there. Look at how old the United States was when J.D. Vance was born. 76,000 days exactly, just like Skull and Bones. He was born in Middletown, Ohio, which is 76. He was also born 71 days or 10 weeks and 1 day after the Temple of Doom was released. And when you write out Temple, it's 71. Knights is 101. But back to this 760, right? She dies 760 days after the Skull and Bones date. Poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon sums to 760, just like Temple Christian School, where she attended. Now, let's go to the Eclipse Code, Cody. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. But before you do that, just on the topic of J.D. Vance,
right?
I decided to pull up from his hometown, Middletown, Ohio, to Indianapolis because it's also not far. And just the basic route it gives you is 109 miles. How about that? Like 10-9, like the day of Skull and Bones. Also,
well, yeah,
the main road you take to get there. I don't. Did I even have my? I meant to take my screen for a second. Hold on, so people can see. To get there. So again, it says 109 miles for the most simple route, I guess, and you have to take Interstate 70. And I know you know this,
Yale University in reduction.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, but that's not just it. This is actually Knights Templar, right? Like 173, Knights Templar 173. But yeah, the 70. Yeah. So the 70, and I've been talking about that number a lot recently because J.D. Vance, or remember Pope Francis died on 70-day numerology. Francis equals 70, Vatican 70. The killing moon equals 70. JFK died 70 moons after or before the moon landing, I think. So there's a lot of 70s, but the base point of this 70 is that if you go from J.D. Vance's hometown to the center of Indianapolis, essentially where the where the circle is, by the way, if you go to the very center where the Statue of Victory is, that's amount of that it's 109 miles and the main route is 70. In fact, 70 seems to go all the way to oh my goodness. So you take 70 to Ohio Street. So you take 70 and then you get on Ohio Street and then you go to the very center of Indianapolis. Wow.
Nice.
Like he's from Ohio. So yeah, a lot of this Indianapolis code is really actually connected to Ohio too because they're neighbors. So just wanted to point that out because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, there's something definitely brewing with the Midwest here. And to me, when I see the date June 13th, it really jumps out at me. And again, this was the birthday of Jim Irsay and Anna Kepner. June 13th. What's so special about that date? Well, the way I see it, it is really one of the root numbers of the eclipse code. And this all ties into the Saros. Now, we talk a lot about the number 223, as we just did, right? And, her name is 223. Look at how old Lionel Messi was when she died, by the way. 2002 weeks and 3 days. Messi plays for Inter Miami CF, which equals 322 and 1572, which is the big number over and over. But back to this, the 223. Now, as I said earlier, the Skull and Bones code is the eclipse code. And this number 223 is special to the Saros, which is a cycle of eclipses that are separated by 223 lunar phases. And the solar Saros that I believe is the root of this code is 136. Because the first eclipse of this series, which lasts about 1,300 years, occurred in the year 1360. And if you look carefully, you realize that in the Western Hemisphere, in much of the Americas, the date was the 13th of June for this first eclipse. 13/6 of 1360. So there's been a lot of significant eclipses through history. For instance, this one was just 3 days after the Jesuits were founded. The Jesuits with that 136, as I pointed out earlier. And then you fast forward to modern times. The most recent eclipse from this series passed over the city of Wuhan, China. And then a decade later, we got coronavirus. Well, the corona is the name of the sun's atmosphere that's only visible during a total eclipse. Well, the next eclipse to occur from this Saros series, 136, is on August 2nd of 2027. And this date jumps out right away, August 2nd, because that's the birthday of J.D. Vance. August 2nd. Well, on that date, J.D. Vance turns exactly 43 years old, which is Yale in ordinal gematria. Don't forget, Yale produced the 43rd vice presidents and president. Knights is 43, a number that's connected to the eclipse code as well. And remember, the 322nd day of the year leaves 43 days on the calendar. So this eclipse in August of 2027, its point of greatest eclipse is over the city of Luxor, Egypt. And how about this? Egypt equals 572. This skull and bones number that we've been talking about. And where are most of the skull and bones from much of history dug up from, right? Egypt. A lot of archaeology going on there. Very important stuff. cruise ship intriguingly sums to 1331, which is the ultimate eclipse number. Hopefully, a lot of people are familiar with this concept by now, but this woman's name, Anna Marie Kepner, equals 1560. Eclipses occur once every 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart. And in Hebrew, the word for eclipse equals 156. Now, in English, the number 33 equals 156. And this is a really interesting point to the Carnival Cruise Line. Just think about it. Carnival Cruise, CC. CC is the 33, right? The third letter. Carnival Cruise was even founded on a 33 date. And Anna Kepner was born 3 months and 3 days after the company's anniversary, which, by the way, was on 11/3. 11 times 3 is 33. But the name Kepner has matching 33 gematria with eclipse. Also, the sun, 33, whether you write it out with or without the word the. Now, the sun is an average of 93 million miles away. And not only does her full name equal the 93rd prime number, but Kepner on its own equals 93, like night. She died 90 weeks and 3 days before this eclipse that peaks over Egypt. The ship that she died on was ordered exactly 93 lunar phases after she was born, by the way. A lot of details with that boat that I thought were intriguing. And again, Carnival with that matching 136 gematria with her birthday. And Cody, this is the part where it just goes completely off the rails, all right? Now, when we look at, and you're muted, I don't know if you're saying anything, but I'm just going to keep going anyway, I guess.
Oh, yeah, keep going. I forgot I was muted, but I wasn't saying anything, so keep going.
Okay, right on. All right, so the numbers are simple here, right? The last eclipse from this Sorrow series on July 22nd, or 7/22. The next eclipse from this series is in the year 2027. So 7/22/227. This is, of course, important. 22 divided by 7 sums to 314, the first 3 digits of pi, just like 22 divided by 7 on a calculator. 3.14. So, measuring from the 2027 eclipse, Anna Kepner died 20 months and 27 days before that date. In ancient Hebrew, full eclipse equals 227. Anna was 227 lunar phases, or 6,722 days old when she died. Her death occurred, I almost don't even know how to say this number, 262,270 days after the Knights Templar were arrested in France and subsequently tortured. So again, we're talking about the Knights Templar this whole time. And it was in 1307 when they were arrested on Friday the 13th. And from that date to her death has a 2270. She was even born 2 months and 27 days after the last eclipse. She died 7 years, 220 days after the Horizon's maiden voyage. That ship was ordered 12 years, 227 days before the 2027 eclipse, which, by the way, falls 20 years, 7 weeks, and 2 days after Anna was born, which was 272 days before Carnival's anniversary. She was exactly 7 years, 27 weeks old when the ship was ordered, and she died 7 months and 27 days after the company's anniversary. And of course, the current lunation number that we assign to the moon is 1272. This is an important lunar number as the moon is 0.272 times the diameter of the Earth. So this is the part where, it's hard not to feel a little crazy reciting the same number over and over. But it's just wild how it all comes together.
Well, and like I said, that was the number that I had already been seeing with the Colts, and I wish I had gotten a chance to make some slides. But I don't know. Maybe you can just pull up their schedule this year, Derek,
yes,
real fast, and show the two times the Colts have lost this year. What was the final score?
Right. So here they played the Rams on September 28th, and they lost by that special 20-27 score. And then fast forward.
And go back from, if you could, go back from that date, September 28th this year, go back 27 days and show them what it lands on. Because this is very significant.
Coronavirus.
Yeah. So again, hopefully people got that. So the Colts lost 20-27, 27 days after Corona was declared. Wow. And as I've said, what was the other game they lost this year, Derek?
To the Steelers, and the score once again 20-27.
And what was it? I think, what did I say? Oh, that one that has a 2027 interesting connection too. They lost that game 20-27, 2027 moon orbits after Indiana was founded, which I believe was December 11th, 1816. I believe that was the date.
Pull it up quick. No sweat.
It was either Indiana or Indianapolis. It's one of the two. I thought I had it written down.
12/11/1816.
So maybe it's Indianapolis. I just know there was a 2020. I know I measured right, but I just don't remember what I measured from.
Yeah, Indianapolis gives us a few dates to pick from. I always like the date of incorporation. That's pretty much the only one I ever really use. And it's not to say there aren't alignments with other ones. I mean,
I think it was the January 6th one, though. I think it was the first date because that was the date that it said it was actually founded. January 6th. Man, what was it? I guess I'll just have to figure that out while you're showing more. But the point here is that, and the most important point with what we just showed is that what are the chances, guys? They lost 27 days. They lost 27 days after COVID was declared. And then they lost again 20-27. There are only two losses. And as Derek's showing, in gematria, Colts equals 227. So, and as he's already shown, it's this girl's dying, which is connected to the Colts, is pointing us to J.D. Vance's birthday in the year 2027 on the eclipse, on the most important eclipse, as Derek has shown, the 136 eclipse. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a lot more other notes. Kind of want to be picky about what I spend time talking about, but a lot of numbers of the sacrifice and kill code are littered all over this story as well. And she dies 1 year, 7 months after the Great American Eclipse, which passed over Indianapolis. And that's kill in reduction. She also has the 17 birth numerology, but that's also 19 months, which is kill in Hebrew. She was born on the date leaving 201 days in the year. And now that I say that, isn't Indianapolis 201? Yeah, in reverse. Yep. So I forgot to point that out, but remember, skull and bones equals 201 with capital letters. Skull and crossbones 201. Also, Eclipse Code and Eclipse Ritual both give us the 201. And I always thought this was interesting because, as we say, the Eclipse Code is essentially 2 into 1. The two giant discs in the sky crossing each other. Her name, Anna Kepner, is 282, like how Yale was founded on the 282nd day of the year. Anna Kepner died 171 days after Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. And that's the reverse gematria of Anna Kepner, which also equals 342 in standard. And when Jim Irsay died, it was 342 days after their birthday. This 171 is also the 18th triangular number, matching her age. Harrison Ford, also born on the 171st day of the year. And there's just a good chunk of connections with Harrison Ford to unpack. Notice how Anna Marie Kepner sums to 145 and 73, just like Harrison Ford. Well, Harrison Ford sums to 711 with Fibonacci numbers. Anna died on the 7th of November, or 7/11, and Harrison Ford was 23,711 days old when she was born. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was released on 5/23, May 23rd. Well, 5/23 is the 99th prime number, and Anna Kepner equals 99 in the alphabetic order. James Stephen Irsay, also a double 99. And she has more overlap with him. With her name summing to 93, it's also worth pointing out that she died 93 days before the Super Bowl, which is also Indianapolis Colts, with the S exception. And if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Jones, their quarterback, also has the 93. This one had a lot of matches as well. The former Colts owner, Bob Irsay, died exactly 10 years and 5 months before Anna Kepner. And 105 is a big number, man. Horizon 105, the name of the ship. Colts 15, Indianapolis Colts 105. Daniel Stephen Jones III 105. Indianapolis, Indiana 1050. And Carnival Cruise Line also had 105 founding numerology. Looking back at Jim Irsay's death, this was also synced to the Eclipse Code as well. Now, this number 223 is the 48th prime number, which is another number of Yale and Skull and Bones. Well, last year we had the eclipse on April 8th over the United States and Indianapolis. That was on April 8th, or 408. The owner of the Colts died 408 days after that eclipse. But his death was also 804 days before the 2027 eclipse over Egypt. Skull and Crossbones, Skull and Bones, solar eclipse, all with the 84 values. And this woman, Anna Kepner, was born on the 48th birthday of Jim Irsay. So yeah, I think that's the good chunk of it, Cody. I don't know if you got anything else you wanted to look at, but I covered all of the important things, I think, from these posts on my blog, which is, of course, at gematrinator.com. There's a link to the blog on the main page, and you can find all of these there. It's fairly simple to navigate. You'll see the last 4 posts I made are in regards to this story. However, the 4 posts before that are also connected as well. That all has to do with the death of Paul Tagliabue and the Berlin Wall. So all of this work can be seen there if you want to dive in a little deeper, if you want to use this as a reference for the future. It's all good. But yeah, one more thing I wanted to point out, which I forgot to mention, is that we're talking about this Lion's Den riddle, right? And now we're talking about a Carnival cruise, and lions are carnivores.
Well,
So
the word
go
carnival
ahead.
comes from something. It has to do with something about meat, like taking away meat or not eating meat. So it definitely has that carnivore it's all about meat, really. But I find it interesting. I just didn't notice this too. We just talked about how the Colts lost 20-27 days after March 11th. This cruise was founded on March 11th, which you mentioned, but I had forgotten. And there even mentions something about 2027 right there. Right there at the top.
Oh,
Cruise
5
line
new
operates
ships coming
with
up.
5 new ships set to join between 2027 and 2033. Huh? But yeah, I mean, that is definitely the Lions Den thing, though, is, I mean, people will know if they've been watching my channel. One of my predictions is the possibility Colts and the Lions being in the Super Bowl. So, but that's also based off of the United Kingdom's coat of arms. If that happens, it's going to be really about King Charles, and that the reason that would make sense is because it seems like a lot of stuff that's been happening recently is about King Charles. So, not that it probably always is, but recently it seems like it's been heavy with Charlie Kirk and Charles, and don't forget Daniel Jones is from Charlotte, which is Charles. And he has the Diana connection, as I've mentioned many times on my streams. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. But as far as the Lions Den, didn't you found like a verse that equaled, like, I remember you shared with me when you were doing that.
Yeah.
There was like a whole verse equaled something. I don't remember what it was now, but
Well, I saw a lot of linearity in the fact that the former commissioner of the NFL died on the same day that the president went to the Washington Commanders game. Right? There's kind of a king's riddle here. You know, Trump, the king of the Republican Party, so to speak. And Daniel cast into the Lion's Den by the king. And, you know, they're asking him on the air during the game about the government shutdown. And he's like, well, we got a deal. And, you know, in the book of Daniel, they're asking the king about his decree and whether or not it's been solidified. And I just saw some parallels in that. So, you know, this verse of the book, which I thought was the most significant one, I'm not sure about that, but it has the decree that sends Daniel into the lion's den. And that verse, 627, sums to 2028. And that's the number of days between Tagliabue's and Trump's birthdays, 2028 days apart. Now, they were also born 2029 days apart with the end date. And Washington Redskins, Northwest Stadium government shutdown, all 229. But that's also the 308th prime number. And Lion's Den and Beast both equal 308. The Beast revealed in the 229th verse. And again, this is Trump watching the Lions play the Commanders. So it felt like this was
that's pretty big.
Kind of the key.
That's pretty big, and if we use the rule of Colel, that 2028 is the 2027 too. So
sure,
it seems to be like they're giving us these 2027, 2028. Is there an eclipse in 2028 also? Or is it the big one's in 2027 because isn't it like one of the longest ones?
Well, it is a very long eclipse, yes. In fact, it might be the longest of the series. No, that was before the middle eclipse. So I mean, 6 minutes and 22 seconds, that's still an incredibly long total eclipse. Like, this is the series that's pumping out the longest eclipses right now.
And that first eclipse in that series was in the year 1312, right?
1360.
Oh no, where did I see 1312 at?
That was the Knights Templar dissolved in 1312.
Oh, well look at, okay, so because I found that while you were talking, Indiana was founded in lunation negative 1312.
That's cool.
And remember that equals 572, right? Like Skull and Bones.
Yeah. What date did I just look at?
It's December 11th, 1816.
Huh. Nice. Yeah.
And well, that's an important kind of thing right now because that's the date of John Cena's retirement match and Taylor Swift's birthday. And actually, pump in the, or I can do it if you want. But if you measure from Taylor Swift, I think it's Taylor Swift to John Cena's birth. John Cena born April 23rd, 1977. Taylor Swift born in 12/13/1989. Okay, that was the 169 because that's the 13, right? That's 13 times 13.
Correct.
And the retirement match, she's born on the 13th. Her number's the 13th, and his retirement match is on her birthday on the 13th. So I had that wrong, but it was the other guy I was thinking of because yes, in last stream, Rambo had brought up an Ohio senator who got caught with the Nazi swastika on a flag in his behind him on like a video. And it was him that was born 20 years and 27 days before Taylor Swift. And like that was a recent news story as well, like at the end of October. And so there was something going on with that because you know that guy's birthday, that senator, I think his name was Dave Taylor. That's why we connected it. The guy's name was Dave Taylor, and he's a senator in Ohio. He got caught with a swastika. And if you measure between Dave Taylor and Taylor Swift's birth, it's 20 years, 27 days. But guess who also is born on the same day as this Senator Dave Taylor? The guy that I've been following for years, the CEO, the CTO of Ripple, David Schwartz. So they have the same exact birthdays, 11/16/1969. And if you measure between both those Davids, David Taylor, David Schwartz, to Taylor Swift, and remember, Ripple is actively against Swift, the system. So that cannot be a coincidence. It's too perfect. Like, because I always talk about how David Schwartz is connected to, well, first of all, the David connection, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to find, but he has confirmed it on his Twitter that he's born on 11/16/1969. He doesn't have a Wikipedia, but I had a slide in my last stream about it. See if
it's interesting that Cena's last match is 36 years after Swift, because we just had this Berlin Wall ritual,
right? Yeah,
on the 36th anniversary. I didn't point it out earlier, but this being on the 36th anniversary, both Berlin and Wall each equal 360 in Sumerian. Which is also Yale and Skull and Bone Society.
Well, it is 360. His career's coming 360 on that day.
Yeah, that's funny. Huh.
But yeah, I found the slide with Dave Taylor. I can pull that up for a second here. Hold on. So David Taylor, he's the senator that got caught with the I don't know if I have the picture of it here, but yeah, you can look it up. David Taylor. He got caught with the swastika on the American flag. He's born exactly 20 years, 27 days before Swift. Taylor Swift, Dave Taylor. And again, that same day, right here, David Schwartz, Chief CTO of Ripple, born November 16, 1969. Dave Taylor, born the same exact day. Both named David. And it gets too much. It can't be a coincidence. Look, just recently, article, Swift tests a blockchain ledger with 30 plus blanks. Is Ripple's edge at risk? Ripple versus Swift. So, I mean, I'm telling you, like Ripple's, whatever's going on with this company and this cryptocurrency, it's always in the mix. It's always a big part of this. And Taylor Swift is actually a big part of that, because if you type in Taylor Allison Swift, I believe she equals 589. I don't remember what cipher, or is it just her actual name, Taylor Swift? Oh, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping today. I could have sworn. Oh yeah, if you use her middle initial, it does equal 589, which is interesting because that is XRP's. Oh look, 169. She just had that 589, and the middle initial is used. They did definitely use that, but it's not the strongest connection. But it is interesting. I know that this itself is pretty tight. So something going on with the 2027 because David Swartz also is known for flip the switch, like the phrase, because they always said that they're gonna flip the switch right to the new system, and that was a phrase they always used with David Swartz. Well, it equals 1318, like the number of the beast, but look, it equals his name in like almost all ciphers, or basically 3 out of the 4. And the Colts actually, like a few years ago, connecting this to the Colts because they keep losing 20 to 27, they actually posted, one of their players posted the phrase "flip the switch," and I remember decoding that. So yeah, I'm just going off on a tangent, but that it is interesting, like that this other 2027 just came up with these two, and this guy literally was just in the news, and he's from Ohio, and I think he's from. Well, let me see. I think he's from pretty near to where JD Vance would be from. Amelia. Yeah, so it's not far. He went to Dayton. I think Amelia, Ohio is not too far. It's south of Cincinnati, so it's probably like 45 minutes from Dayton, Middletown area, maybe an hour at most. So yeah, definitely something there. And but yeah, the 12th, going back to what we originally started talking, the 1213, it's funny Indiana was founded on negative. Have you ever seen that workout where the negative lunation comes into play?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of examples for sure.
Okay.
Not at my fingertips, but get that. Yeah, it's something I've noticed as well. I mean, when you look at like United States was founded during lunation negative 1812, and then after
Right.
Independence Day we had the War of 1812. I was just like, really?
Huh. Yeah, that's. I mean, I never really saw that, but just now I just saw where Indiana was founded in that, and I remembered that I had just seen that number. So it is interesting for sure. And just to go back to, there was another thing I wanted to say, but is there any other numbers that you'd like to point out before we start wrapping it up? It'll be like another 5 or so minutes. We'll stay on, but
No, I think I'm good. I think I mentioned in my video earlier this week that actually JFK was born during lunation negative 69, and his birthday was exactly 69 years after the state of Wisconsin. And of course, eclipse is 69, right? And in my last video, I said I think we're going to get something out of Wisconsin connected to JFK. And that night, the Packers played the Eagles and lost 10-7. And when you write out John Fitzgerald Kennedy, it's 107. And 10-7 is a pretty rare score, especially for the Packers. So,
well, that happened twice recently. There was another primetime game just a few days before that was 10-7.
Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, on my blog, I've documented, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, over 25 times where I've documented the negative lunation number.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, definitely pay attention when you see it.
But yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, guys, I mean, I think we did a pretty good job putting these together here.
Sure. I'll pat myself on the back. I would pat you on the back too if I could reach that far, but
well, I mean, like I said, I don't think me or Derek even had any dreams in our minds upon waking up this morning that this would be what we'd be talking about. But, you know, you got to follow where the riddles take you. And this one seemed to take us right back to the Indiana Jones theme, and the Templar and the Skull and Bones connections as we usually run into. But yeah, just the basic symbolism that we pointed out, just a recapping, you know, with the crusade, the cruise ship, cross, Indiana, the crossroads, of America.
It's a tale as old as time, right? Some mysterious person dies under bizarre circumstances and no one's really sure what happened. And oh, it's a massive riddle connected to the world of sports and the government. Like, what do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just I know a lot of people probably like, why is he always talking about sports? Well, it's just the sports are always ongoing and they're always tied to every riddle. That's why it's almost impossible not to include them in every decode because there's always a sports event going on. And that brings me to this. We might as well at least touch on this. In a few days, guys, or wait, 2 days from now, UFC 322. How about that?
Yes, sir.
So, and yeah, guys, I mean, UFC 322. I mean, do we really need to say anymore? Like, so be prepared for possible things that connect to this, of course. I would not be surprised if we're on here in a few days talking about something connected to this. And this is probably because the same company that owns, is this VeChain? That's a cryptocurrency. Interesting. I don't know if that's the same VeChain, but they're branded it as VeChain. Yeah, it's the cryptocurrency.
Strange.
It's the symbol of the cryptocurrency VeChain. Interesting. I'll have to look at that. They're actually branding it with that cryptocurrency. And that, man, I haven't even heard of them in a while. I used to, like 4 or 5 years ago, I used to know about them more, but I thought they kind of fell. I mean, they're still around, but I didn't realize they were going to be branded on UFC. But this might actually tie to this Survivor Series War Games, because again, the same company that owns UFC now also owns WWE, so it's essentially the same thing. That's all owned by The Rock, by the way. He's part owner of that supposedly. But yeah, this is Survivor Series War Games in San Diego, and this will be. I think John Cena will be here. Yeah, he's going to be there, and it's in San Diego because it's going to be all tied to the Mysterios and the 619 because the San Diego area code is 619, which of course is my birthday and King James' birthday. So yeah, guys, I'm just giving you an overview of what we might be seeing in the future here in a few days with UFC 322 and Survivor Series War Games, which features on the front, it features the Bronsons and the guy born on 9/11, Paul Heyman. And the Braun in Swedish means bridge. So the guy on the front there, his name is essentially means bridge breaker. And the other guy, well, speaking of Skull and Bones, what does Mr. Bronson Reed, the other guy on the cover, what does he wear right on the front of his attire? Let's see if I can find
not a Skull and Bones, is it?
Yeah, it is a Skull and Bones. It's what it's the only thing. It's what he wears. So
what a surprise.
So, and I think this is the first time he's ever been featured on a WWE cover of a pay-per-view. And yeah, his name is Bronson, and the other guy he's with is Bronson. His real name is Bronson. His real name's not even Bronson. So I don't know what they're doing here, but his real name is not Bronson, but his stage name is Bronson. His real name is Bronson, but he goes by Braun instead of Bronson. But the Braun thing, I believe, goes also back to the Germans, the Werner von Braun. It's a Nazi code too, which is also why there's a cage here. But yeah, the Skull and Bones, and then this guy's featured on the cover just as we go past UFC 322. So just watch out for them. I'm sure Derek will be doing some codes on Skull and Bones the next 2 weeks connected to this. I have a feeling.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be doing some Skull and Bones decodes. I don't know if they'll be wrestling or not because WWE's been pretty lame. It's hard for me to like pay any attention and sit through it. But yeah, I mean, you don't even need to watch it to really see.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't watch it. I don't even watch it, but I just watch the like 5-minute recap videos on YouTube, and that's good enough for me.
I just miss I miss enjoying wrestling, like when it was fun and like okay. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
I
gotten so
mean,
watered down and corporate fight. I mean, WWE's like basically owned by the Saudis now. They're doing a WrestleMania there in 2027.
well,
It's insane.
that's I was going to mention that. I bet it's connected to that because what's the chances?
Probably.
What are the what? And that's WrestleMania 43.
Yeah, it's in the Middle East, just where that not far from that eclipse.
And think about it. JD Vance turns 43 just after that.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I just thought about that too, considering what we just talked about. But yeah, no one's happy about this. Like they all got booed, but they're doing it intentionally. They're making their
Right.
product bad right now intentionally. I think. Like
They've been doing that for decades, man. Like ever since they scooped up WCW, they're not trying to put the best wrestling product out there. They don't need to. It's more about like getting people to come back and hope they can finally see something good or something. But right now, they're not even really selling tickets, or they're not selling out their arenas, whereas they were making money hand over fist for the last couple of years.
well, isn't it
It's just
interesting though that the last really shocking and good thing that I think happened was John Cena's turn on Cody Rhodes, and then after that he said he was going to ruin wrestling. Right? He kept walking around
yeah,
saying he was going to leave and ruin wrestling, and now ever since that, wrestling has been very. I mean, even for me, it's been very stale. I mean, but I follow it because it is clearly still going on with the symbolism, and I would say that I am one of the designated wrestling decoding channels, and I do enjoy decoding it. But as far as watching it, like you said, it's not like the heyday, that's for sure. I mean,
well, no.
there's a few people that I could see making it good again, but they just don't have the star power they used to either. That's the other thing.
Well, like I've said before, like it's against their interests to make superstars now, because then the superstar could get bigger than they are, leave to a different company, and bring business over there. They'd rather squash their talent and then send them off on their way. It's just like it's kind of funny when you realize what's going on. But yeah, I mean, every year the sun will go down earlier every day. The leaves will change colors. Pro wrestling and football will be numerically synced to the occultic news stories of the mainstream. I think we see this year in, year out, and will continue to do so.
Yep. But yeah, that's just kind of my last thing I wanted to point out is UFC 322 and then the upcoming War Games. So keep your eyes out for stuff on that, guys. If you guys see anything, make sure you guys are always good about letting me know. Somebody says Gaza is a crossroads city. I'm not sure. Is that a nickname for it, or do they just call it that? I've never heard of that, but that's interesting. Yeah, Braun Breaker is Rick Steiner's son and Steiner's nephew from Bay City, Michigan, home of Madonna. Interesting. Rex Steiner, that's a German thing too. So there's your German code again. But yeah, thanks, Derek. Is there any final words before we sign off? I just want to thank you again for coming on and being part of it, and thanks for always allowing us to use your calculator. And yeah.
Yeah, good. I was thinking about just shutting down one day and just seeing how everybody scramble, but of course, there's alternatives by now too.
I would scramble, but I mean, I do have alternatives myself. But I would definitely be missing my my calculator. I'll tell you that.
Well, no, I mean the true joy for me is doing the work and helping share this stuff. Share the knowledge, not just through the calculator, but through assembling some of the code that's underlying these stories and just helping to make sense to people. I think there's so much confusion out there that if you can make sense of anything, it's kind of a superpower of sorts. And depending on your makeup, it can really help people along the way. So hopefully we can continue to doing that, to keep doing that, and get the work out to more and more people as we grow the knowledge base.
Yeah, and again, thanks to everyone in the chat for always being here and hitting the likes and sharing and whatever you guys are doing to help and supporting the work on all the decoders. Make sure you go check out all the other channels, including Derek's. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Again, we thank you all for being here, and I guess we'll see you guys very soon in another decode, right, Derek?
That's right. That's correct. Yes. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to you all next time.
See you guys.
See ya.